Okay, so inside the surface geometric set, there's a couple of level planes, and those planes control are the supports for the points. Those points are the control points for the splines, and then there's a loft surface through those splines. So we can move the surface by just grabbing some of these planes, double-clicking on the plane, and stretching it up or down. You can grab some of the points to move them around on the plane, and that'll start to stretch the surface in these weird shapes. So just take a few minutes to stretch your surface out. Yeah. I'm going to leave mine like this. Yeah. What did you try to move? Nothing moves? Press escape. Just press escape a couple times and if you get errors, just hold down escape. Yeah. Hold down escape. Keep pressing. Double click. Press space. Alright, so once you just played with the surface, moving points, if you move a point, it's going to move the curve. If you move a plane, it's going to move the curve. I'm going to delete let's delete these two inverses. Inside surface, there's inverse 3 and inverse 2. Let's delete those. They're hidden. You can delete inverse 1, sorry. So delete all the inverses. So we've got the surface, near curve. We're not going to touch near curve right now. And so last time we looked at the smart divide, and this time we're going to instantiate it into the model. So show points, show the points geometric set. Expand it, and then there's an empty smart divides geometric set. Right click on that smart divides and define in work object. And now go to tools, and there's instantiate from representation. On the tools, it's on the right hand side, instantiate from representation. If you click the little down arrow, it'll give you the text. And now we're going to search from search. So go to the search tab and just type in smart divide and search. I've got nothing. Try an underscore and search. Now there's PWKP smart divide. Double click on it, and it's going to ask for a curve. We'll put the bottom points in first. So select inside surface, there's spline.1. That's going to be the curve input. So in the dialog box where it says insert object, select spline.1. And what's important is if you look in this window, this is the power copy that we're instantiating. It has an arrow pointing to the left. And if you look in our model, it has an arrow pointing to the right. We want the arrows to align. So press that, if you press on that green arrow in the model space, it's going to switch directions. Okay? So press on that green arrow so that it's pointing left, the same as the smart divide. And press OK. Now we have a PW smart divide set inside smart divides. Expand that and go to control parameters. And where it says name equals PW, change it to BOT for bottom, BOT. Inside points, smart divide set, change it to bottom. And I'm going to turn off generate planes. So where it says generate planes, switch that to false. Okay. If you expand down to reporting parameters, or scroll down to reporting parameters and expand that, what is everybody resulting segments? 6 or so? Okay, that's a good number. We'll leave it at that. If it's 50, change your spacing. But if it's 6 to 10, that's good. It's not too many. Okay. Now we're going to instantiate the power copy that we just instantiated again. We're going to do it instead of instantiating by representation. Now we're going to instantiate by selection. So select that geometric set, the bot smart divide set, and under that same button, there's instantiate from selection. So click instantiate from selection. Now it's asking us for 2 because we did the inverse. First, we're going to switch it. We're not going to do inside. We're going to do after. And we're going to use spline.5 for both inputs. So inverse.4 is going to be spline.5. Spline.1 is going to be spline.5. Click OK. And it should put 4 of them in there for me. You will get more or less. And go back to control parameters and change the bottom to RGT for right. And press enter. Alright, at this point we should probably, let's save individual parts so that you have them. So let's go up to the little arrow, save the line, click on the lines next to save. We're going to save with options. Select empty Iso grid, right click, and save selected as new. It's going to ask you for a duplicate string to place at the beginning of the file, and just give it your initials and underscore. Click OK. You should get a yellow dot next to the name. That means it's going to save it. Press OK. It's going to write it to the database, and after it's finished saving, go up to the top. The part and product are going to say, or the part and then the reference are going to say JA empty ISO grid. Change the name. So right click and go to properties, and just delete the empty underscore. So it's your JA ISO grid. I already have a JA ISO grid in there, so I'm going to put new at the end of mine so I know, or how about I'm going to put in class. So I know this is mine. You guys don't need to put in class at the end. Okay. And then I'm going to rename this. So right click. Okay, 1 second. JA underscore isogrid in class. Okay. And after you've renamed both the top level product and the reference, the white reference, Control S to save, and it will save the part with the new name that you just changed it to. So now we have a new file. Everybody has their own file now. And we have our points, smart divide. We've got a bottom smart divide and a right smart divide. Now we're going to instantiate another power copy that does the isoparametric curves. If we wanted to do just one isoparametric curve, we go underneath in wireframe, underneath the spline, click the little down arrow next to spline. There is isoparametric curve. And if you click on that, it's going to ask for a support. Our support is the surface. It asks for a point, and we just select any point, or any point on the surface. The direction, we can give it a direction. I'm not going to click OK. I don't want to save this. That's what an isoparametric curve is. It's a curve on a surface. If you imagine a surface has these grid lines, they're called UV parameterization. Does anybody know what U and V coordinates are on a surface? No? I made an isoparametric curve that I don't want to keep. That isoparameter and line. Let's delete that if you made it. Delete aggregated elements, yes. Okay, so now we've got bottom points and right points. On smart divides, right click on smart divides and define in work object. Go back to tools, the tools section, and instantiate from representation. Yeah? Did you define in work object on smart divides? Instantiate from representation. And now just from search, we're going to search for ISO. Cool. We're going to select minus the third one down, Iso Param curve at point list. Does everybody see that? Double click on that. And now it asks for right points list, base surface, and direction line. Right points list is inside the right smart divide set, KP, smart divide, right points list. When we instantiated that smart divide power copy, the knowledge pattern creates a list of points, and that list of points is going to be an input. So right points list is going to be that right points list in the tree. Base surface is going to be the base surface. Pretty straightforward right there. And the direction line is going to be inside that surface geometric set direction line. So we're sharing, all the names should be the same, and they all should come from your inputs, your surface geometric set. And because we made the smart divides our work object, it's by default going to put it at the end of that geometric set. So if everybody has this, click OK. And mine automatically executed, and it gave me that. Did everybody get horizontal Iso Param curves in their model? Maybe. If you want to, like, I'm not happy with the resolution of these, so I'm going to change the number of of the points I have on the right. So I'm going to expand right smart divide set. I'll collapse that KP and expand the control parameters. And I'm going to change the spacing from 1524 to 600. That did a bit better. I'll leave it at that for now, that's fine. Okay. Does everybody have this? Okay, so now we've got our horizontal isocurves. We're going to instantiate from selection again. So select hor isocurves. Click the little down arrow next to the instantiate from representation and click on instantiate from selection. The destination is going to be after horizontal isocurves. The right planes list is going to be, the right points list is going to be bottom points list. So that's points, smart divide, bottom smart divide, KP, smart divide, KP, bottom points list. The base surface is the same. And the direction line is going to be vertical direction line. Click OK. It should generate the curves automatically. And this time we're going to change string name from, if you expand that second horizontal isocurves, there's the intersections KP, intersections geometric set, and then string name hor, we're going to change that to VER underscore. So that's vertical. Click OK. And there's an ISO grid. And just to show you, so we made an ISO parametric curve manually. The code that does it is really pretty simple. If you double click on that KP, that's a knowledge pattern. If you double click on that knowledge pattern, it's just looping through the list. And for every point inside that list, it's going to create an ISO parametric curve. So now if you want to, because the knowledge patterns execute automatically whenever the model updates, if you go ahead and grab any of these points now and move it around, it's going to completely update that the points and the ISO curves. Now I've got way more curves in this direction than I want, so I'm going to change it to segments. I'm going to have 12 segments on the right hand side. There, that's a bit better. So we've got the surface now, we've got our points, we've got our ISO curves, ISO parametric curves. Now we're going to create a point grid on the surface by intersecting one list of isoparametric curves in one direction with the second list of isoparametric curves in the opposite direction. CATIA does not have a built-in point grid on surface tool, which is kind of a bummer, because if it did have a point grid on surface tool, then we could bypass all of this stuff, all of this construction. Anyway, so let's clean up the trees so that we only have, let's make it easy on ourselves so that we've got, oh, I didn't rename, I've got hor isocurves and hor isocurves. I'm going to rename this geometric set, the bottom one, to be vertical isocurves. So now we've got hor isocurves and vertical isocurves. And I'm going to expand the tree so that I can see both curves, both lists of curves. See, I should rename the second list of curves to be horizontal curves, vertical curves as well. So my vertical isocurve geometric set should contain a list of vertical curves, not horizontal curves. So I'm going to change the name there as well. So now I've got a hor isocurves geometric set, intersections KP hor curves. Then I've got vertical isocurves geometric set, intersections KP vertical curves. Now I'm ready to instantiate the point grid generator. So that's back in Tools, Instantiate from Representation. From search, we're going to search for intersection. Type in intersection and search. It didn't show up. Let's just search for intersect. Intersect and search. Cool, we want intersect list of curves. PWKP intersect list of curves. Double click on that. And it asks for horizontal curves and vertical curves. Yeah?
Did we click on this thing before we instantiated that? Or
No.
was that selected?
Nothing selected.
And was it
Yeah. The destination is after vertical isocurves. Horizontal curves is going to be that horizontal curves list. Oh, I didn't. After vertical isocurves. Horizontal curves is the horizontal curves. Vertical curves is the vertical curves list. Make sure you're clicking the list underneath the knowledge pattern. When it's done, click OK. You'll have a grid of points in the wrong place. So expand point grid. Well, you might be able to just click update. Nope. You need to right click on KP inside the point grid geometric set. Expand the intersections KP. And where it says the knowledge pattern KP, right click and execute. I got an error. Did anybody else get an error? Yeah?
I have never.
When you select point grid, what highlights? Are you missing a row? Like me? Yeah.
No, I see that, but when I do the execution on the KP.
So for me, my last, what should be horizontal is vertical. I think that's because of this direction line. I'm going to change the definition of this direction line. From point to point, I'm going to make it point and direction. And my direction is going to be the ZX plane. And now let me update. Oh, that didn't do it. I think by bringing my surface down, that should help. I think it's just a little too extreme. Oh, it's way wrong. I'm trying to clean it up, so there's something wrong with the horizontals aren't being created. And it's still not working. Let's try this. Oh boy. When in doubt, save and close and open it again. That's what I think I'm going to have to do. I think it's got something stuck in memory. Oh man. Well, there, now I don't have any more errors. Okay, so now if we have points, a point grid, we can redirect the instantiator. So right here we've got an instantiator. We can redirect this one from the temporary empty list to the list of points that are created here. So right click on the PW Instantiate Smart Surface Panels, go to Object, Edit Inputs, and the temp list is going to be the points inside Point Grid, the points list. Leave everything else the same. And press OK. Now let's save here. Control S. Once it's done saving, right-click on this Instantiate Panels. Go to the object, Instantiate Panels object, and execute. It's going to take a minute. So I've instantiated my UDFs. If I hide the surface, and then I hide smart divides, I've got this big shell then of instantiated power copies. And if I show the near curve, the near curve is controlling the openings. So let's say I double click on that point up there, and I move it up here. Uh-oh. I've just made a really big opening where my curve goes through the center of a panel. Okay, so everybody, now you've instantiated inside surface panels UDFs. You've instantiated UDFs, user-defined features. So that's inside the PW Instantiate Smart Surface Panels, Surface Panels Geometric Set, UDF Project Panel, Proj Panel. If you right-click on that, you can go to the UDF Proj Panel object and open template reference. That should open JA PW Panel Rote. We're going to save this as a new file. So save with options. Select that JWPW panel rote. Yeah. So right click, save selected as new. And put in there your initials, underscore UDF underscore 01. Okay, and then okay. So you should have your initials UDF01 and then JA PW panel. We're going to change the name of those. So right click on the part, properties, delete it so it's just your initials UDF01. Okay, and do the same thing for the reference. Okay, and then save again, Control S. Okay, now we're going to jump back to the other file, the Iso Grid file. And let's delete those UDFs that have been instantiated. So select the first or the last one, scroll to the opposite top or bottom of the list, hold down Shift, select, and delete. Do not delete exclusive parents, so make sure that is not checked. Click OK. Now we want to go to the resource table. Inside the relation set, there's a resource table, and we're going to relink the power copy or the UDF that we instantiated to the UDF that you just saved. So go to resource table, double click on resource table, and where it says UDF panel, the second in the list, where it says in the resource tab, double click on that, and instead, we're not going to do from search, we're going to do from session. Click from session and retrieve loaded objects. You should see that your initial is UDF_1. Double click on that. You get another window. Select that UDF proj panel and click OK. So now the resource is linked to your file. So now when we instantiate, you're going to instantiate your file and not mine. Okay? Click OK and save it. Control S. Now we're gonna make a change to that UDF. So go back to your UDF, expand PW panel, expand surface. So your surface, if your surface geometric set isn't underlined, right click, define and work object. And go to the surface section. We're just gonna make a sphere. We're gonna delete the sphere, but we're just gonna show the sphere right now. So click on sphere. The center of the sphere is going to be inside. There's a point inside this construction set. There's a COG point. We're going to do the COG proj point. That's the COG projection point. COG being the center of gravity of our panel. So the center is that COG. Sphere axis, absolute, that's fine. Radius, let's give it a 200 radius. What does that look like? That looks good. Create the whole sphere, yes. And click OK. I'm going to make sure that did not add any inputs. It did not. Okay, so then save this. Just Control S. Go back to your other file, your other tab, the Iso Grid. And in the PW Instantiate Smart Surface panel, let's instantiate panels. So right click, instantiate panels object, execute. Oh, we didn't. I forgot to tell you to recompute, to redo the UDF. So we didn't get a sphere. Because we forgot to add it to the UDF. So we need to go back to the UDF. there's a knowledge templates tab inside the UDF file. Double click on UDF Proj panel. Click on the change update components. Say yes, I want to proceed. In the outputs, you want to click on the sphere. So the main result is the split, extrude is included, and sphere is included also. Click OK. Now save it. Go back to your other file, and now the great thing about UDFs is it remembers the link. If you save the original UDF, you can update what's been instantiated in your model. So if you select your first one, and you right-click on the UDF, you go down to the UDF object, and you say synchronize. It says, oh, it recognizes that you've added an output. So if you say synchronize, it's reset, it's relinked the UDF to what's been instantiated. The only problem with synchronizing in 2015X is there's no synchronize all. You should be able to right-click selected objects and synchronize all. But there isn't. It's missing. So well, you should be able to synchronize all. You can't. You have to delete and reinstantiate.
I got an error whenever I try to execute.
It's because your horizontal is missing.